talk to you about DevOpsDays Minneapolis, which is a conference we're going to be having. Hey, Mark. It's a conference we're going to be, you're wearing this giant EFF hat, I couldn't see you. It's a conference we're going to be having here in Minneapolis this summer. So I think if everyone has taken a look, I submitted the pull request this morning to open registration. So they accepted it. I don't think it's on the website yet, but it will be shortly. So if you jump on there, you can be one of the first people to register and get the cheap tickets before it's too late. And I think if we, whoever's closest wants to move things over to the next slide. The only important information that was on that other slide was that it's July 17th and 18th. So you can also find that on the website. But yeah, without further ado, I would love to have our panelists introduce themselves. And then we really want to talk with you and find out what you want at this event, since DevOps Days is a community-organized event. So I guess since I'm talking, I'll just keep talking for the moment. Hi, I'm Bridget Kromhout. You can find me on the Twitters. And I'm very happy to be working with this whole group of people. I'm on the ops side of the house. I work at a startup. And I used to be one of those sysadmins who said no to the developers all the time, and I learned a different way that actually works much better for me. So nothing like the zeal of a convert. All right.
Hi, I'm Notto. I am also on the operations side of things. I do infrastructure automation in the IT operations group at Target. Similar to Bridget, I was a sysadmin in a past life and saw a lot of the kinds of problems that traditional IT organizations and enterprises deal with struggles between development and operations, or just how to work with people who are incentivized different for stability versus delivering changes to the environment. And when I learned about DevOps, I saw that there was a better way to do things and a better way to deliver value to customers quicker. And make everyone's lives better, so I'm super excited about it.
I'm probably the weird one out here. My name is Donnie Berkholz. Well, yeah, for a lot of reasons. I will also hold this cup in front of my face so you can recognize my picture. So I'm an industry analyst at a company called Red Monk. We do research about trends in software development and try and quantitate that to the extent we can. DevOps is one of those. And we try and apply that research to help companies build software that sucks less for people trying to do DevOps. Sometimes we succeed and sometimes not so much. And so I bring sort of an external perspective of watching what's happening and writing it up and talking to people about it versus actually doing it, which I used to do in a past life, as many of us seem to have. And then on the side, I've been working on a Linux distro called Gentoo for a little over 10 years now. And so, you know, a lot of us think of ourselves sort of as SREs before that was a thing. That's the relevant parts of my background.
Are you guys interested in the irrelevant parts, or should we keep going? I'm Domeier. I'm the Director of Technical Operations at SPS Commerce. Just out of curiosity, I actually want to test one of Donnie's theories. How many people in this room are developers? Can you raise your hands? Wow, awesome. That's nice. Really awesome. Yeah. All right. Working at SPS Commerce, just at a high level, DevOps really interests me because I see our organization growing really rapidly, and one of the challenges we have is we have a lot of different services and struggle with aligning operations and development, even though both departments or both teams a lot of times ultimately have the same goals. The priorities don't align, and I mean, you guys have all seen it. People need stuff, you can't get them stuff fast enough, or you do get them stuff, it's the wrong stuff. So it solves a lot of the problems that we're facing at SPS right now. It's just a really fun culture to start looking at, and it's fun people to hang around with. So.
All right, my name is Tom Duffield. I started as a developer, shifted into operations, and now I work for a small company that some of you may have heard of. I actually work for Chef. So I'm from Minneapolis, so I really like the area, and I really want to get DevOps, excited here. So that's why I'm doing that. That's my quick little spiel.
All right. I'm Jeff Williams. I work at the University of Minnesota. I basically did sysadmin sorts of things and checked off that checkbox. Okay, I've been a sysadmin. Now I decided to learn development. So I'm in the development part. And knowing how things work sysadmin-wise and seeing how it works to be a developer, there's definitely some things that can be improved about it. about the process. I've seen systems that are really well organized and well maintained, and they even have many computers in them, many servers. But you don't have the flexibility, even in a very well organized system. You don't have flexibility to quickly add new servers and have them also be part of it and have everything all magically just work. You can bring up a new server, have it ready in hours or a day, but it's not like you can bring a new cloud server and just on the fly as you need it. Everything is all set up, all the monitoring, all the packages have been installed, all of the tripwire sorts of things to check to make sure everything is there, all the log management, all the different pieces. I see some of this stuff as a way, as stuff that I can learn to try to get a really flexible architecture built instead of one where each new box, even if it's part of a well-managed system, takes a long time to set up, right? And over to you, we're using Chef, so.
All right, and I forgot to tell you the name of the startup I work at, possibly because it changed this week. I work at a startup that is called 8th Bridge, but we were just bought by a company called Fluid, which is another venture-backed company out of San Francisco. But we're still here in Minneapolis. We're not moving. No, it's making me move to the Bay Area, which is good. Because, you know, like everyone else in this room probably, I've been telling the Bay Area recruiters for quite a while, snow is a feature, not a bug. So, anyway, so that's who we are. Tom started out asking who you are. We have a lot of developers in the room, which is great because Donnie has noticed that a lot of, if we want to go back to the key information here, Donnie has noticed that a lot of the people who end up doing DevOps stuff are actually ops people. He gave a great talk at the DevOps meetup, which had a few developers at it last Wednesday about, what was it called? The parallel worlds
universes, yeah.
Of cloud developers versus DevOps people. And it's great that there are developers here because we want to make DevOpsDays Minneapolis something where developers and operations, not just operations, are talking about how we can interoperate better. There are a lot of seats right here, and I'm talking to some empty seats right here, and so if we want to give people a pause to, if they want to, take some seats right here, that would be fantastic. I see you in the back there, Jake.
Let's close that door.
If we close that door, it'll be 100 degrees in here. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
If it's too loud, you could also slide over here and move away from that noise.
Yep. Anyway, I suspect the video may end up being useless because we're not talking into the mic, but there's 6 of us. It's not practical for us to handle wireless lav around.
There's a shotgun on there anyway, so it might work out.
We'll see. Anyway, so DevOps Days, people might say, what is that? Is that something you came up with? No. As you probably read in our blurb, that's actually been going on since Patrick Dubois started it in Ghent, Belgium. And several of us here have been to a number of the ones, not in Belgium, sadly. Let's see, I went to Santa Clara, which I only half paid attention to because I didn't really understand what open space was, and which we'll talk about. And I went to the one that Tony was also at in New York last fall. And you've been to several as well, Donnie.
Yeah, I've been at the one in Austin and Santa Clara as well. And I actually, the Santa Clara one went twice, and that was the one that blew my mind about this whole idea. I was like, wow, this is the best conference I've ever been to, and so I'm really excited, being able to bring it here.
And Tony actually brought a lot of the ideas that he got in New York at DevOps Days last fall back, and tell us about what you did at Target.
So we had an internal DevOps Days conference at Target because there's a number of us who are really passionate about the DevOps movement, and we organized, I guess, internal speakers. We even had a couple of people from the industry come.
We had Ducey from Chef, who
Yep,
is on our
Ducey
list of
from
organizers,
Chef.
but he's not here
And
today.
Rob Cummings from Nordstrom. He actually presented to us via remotely, and that was really cool. And we had a lot of people come and kind of do a one-day version of the DevOps Days format where we had traditional presentations, some lightning or ignite talks, and then open spaces or birds of a feather session, if you're familiar with that term. And it was really great. We're going to do it again. And there's a little write-up on it on the Target Pulse blog if you're interested in reading more about that.
Yeah.
So off of that, who's familiar with DevOps Days and the style of the conference? Okay, so do you want to, let's talk a little bit about what the conference would be like.
And you've been to some of these, yes?
I've been, so DevOps Days, like you said, started in Belgium, and then it kind of started a style of conference. I haven't been to an official DevOps Days, but I've been to many of the kind of, we're doing the DevOps-like conference. So does someone want to take explain the different pieces,
Yeah, do you want
like what to expect?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start, and then Bridget can fix all the areas where I mess it up. Basically, how it typically works is most of them are a couple of days. You start in the morning with like pre-scheduled talks, so everybody applies. The proposals actually go up on the website, so the whole community can comment on them. Some conferences put the names on, some don't. We're thinking about not doing it, just
We're not.
so people can think about the concepts in the talk rather than just picking names. Because we really want to get everybody who's got some thoughts on this to propose a talk, and not just try and bring in those big name chef people. And then the afternoons.
And our
What?
call for proposals is open.
Oh yes, the call for proposals is open. It's up on the website, and
We want to hear from you. We want you to talk.
yeah, we really want to get the local community here talking about what DevOps means for them and how it's working in their companies and organizations versus trying to bring in some luminary to speak from on high about like this is DevOps, and because everybody's got a little bit different opinion of what it is. And I guess on the note, how many of you think you know what DevOps is?
That's a good answer.
While we're raising hands, real quick, while we're raising hands, just quick, I'm just curious. Can the developers raise their hands again? How many of the developers currently have a project where you're waiting on operations for something? Keep your hands up. All right, now how many of you are really hot because this room is really warm?
How many of you have been waiting for operations for more than a day, 2 days, 3 days, a week? Yeah. Longer.
Oh, you guys just look
That's
sour now.
Yeah, so to
And
get
you
back.
want to fix this.
Right, so to get back to the format, so anybody can apply, the community comments on the proposals. We ended up picking some for talks in the morning that are pre-scheduled. And then in the afternoon, it's called open spaces. And so it's more of an unconference style approach, an actual unconference, not mini bar unconference where you propose in advance anyways, but where you show up on the day of, and anybody who wants to can run a session, sort of impromptu, and people sort of migrate around however they feel like it. And it's a nice blend because it gives you a reason to attend for the people who are looking for structured content, but it also gives you, an opportunity to say, wow, that was a really inspirational talk this morning. I think we should, have a session that builds off of that and goes in more detail because, frankly, I completely disagree with the presenter and I think she's totally wrong or he's totally wrong. So, I'm going to run my own session where we can discuss, for example, what DevOps actually means. Because even in the community, we've got a lot of disagreements about that.
On that note, and there is more to say about the format, we can talk about Ignite in a minute, because that's fun, or terrifying, depending on your point of view. But on that note, I would love to hear the one-sentence version from everyone on the panel of what they think DevOps means. Let's start over with somebody who works for, one sentence.
One sentence.
And go. I'm putting you on the
No
spot, Tom.
semicolons.
No semicolons.
I like how we're making Tom go first, too.
Yeah, when he works for Chef,
go
all right?
stand
He
over
better have
here.
No walls. That's what DevOps really is. There's no walls between anyone in the organization. When you have walls and you have processes for handoffs and you chuck things over the wall from devs to ops and ops to dev and support, that's where things start breaking down. So DevOps really means no walls, full communication, accountability across the board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Still thankful somebody else said that. I was just biting my tongue up here.
Nice.
So, all right, mine is development and operations, even if they're on different teams, working like they're on the same team.
I call it more or less a delivery team incentive to deliver the same thing. Does resources, ops, stuff, doesn't matter. We're all trying to do the same thing.
I think of it as bringing agile software development all the way through to production.
I'm going to have to kind of combine the Adam Jacob definition of DevOps as a social and professional movement with local guy Jeff Sussna's DevOps is about empathy.
Exactly. I can't even follow all those up, so I'll just say What DevOps means to me is being happier at work as an ops person than I've ever been before, because the developers are not the enemy. The problem is the enemy. We work together to solve the problem. So, all right.
Bob?
Where do you put the data and BI people? Are they developers or are they part of ops?
I think something really important about DevOps is that it's not really just about devs and ops. It's actually about the entire process all the way through from the business level to the customers. And so really it's just simplifying it by calling it DevOps and illustrating, you know, those two teams working together, but the broader idea should be expanded out to create, you know, an agile business, if you want to think about it that way.
So is data and BI a third circle that intersects operations and development?
You could put
It's like an
security in
electron.
there.
It's in all places at once. Sometimes you're a developer, sometimes you're operations, sometimes you're both. It just depends on what you're doing at any given time.
I think analytics is a really interesting one too. Is if anyone was just in the UX conversation next door, I think one of the quotes that's probably overly used but not reflected on enough is that you can't manage anything you don't measure, right? So analytics is like, whether it's agile development or DevOps as a whole, how are you measuring success? What is success? A lot of that information lives in the data too, whether it's big data or just simple metrics on what you're trying to deliver.
The user gets in there somehow?
I think that the role of the user is probably that they're the end user of whatever it is you're doing, or the customer, or the client, or whatever, has needs, and you're going to want to work to meet whatever those needs are, so that you keep them as a user or a client or whatever. And that does mean reacting faster. And if all of these teams are working together quickly, then in an agile fashion, as Donnie said, then you're reacting fast enough to actually meet the needs of the user when they have the need, not 12 months later,
Yeah.
when they might not have the need anymore.
Yeah.
Because they found another solution outside.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then finding of other solutions is something that, and I have to be confessional here and say I'm looking at someone who, Mark, I would probably say that the semi-adversarial relationship we had when I was in ops and you were in dev in the same organization did lead to some shadow IT, which is to say the devs are not going to wait for ops to get their stuff together. So they're going to just come up with something. And it might be a cowboy thing, I know you, Mark, but you want something that's going to work and you can get it out the door because you need to work. And if the apps are standing in the way of that, it doesn't help the organization.
How many developers in here are doing Agile as your development coach? How often do your sprints, how often does ops actually do a build every 2 weeks for your releases? How often, does your code go to production every 2 weeks, or every day? Yep. Okay, so you're doing CI. That's awesome. Okay. I think that's one of the things for ops teams that I've seen, like the analogy I really like, or I've seen used is for development teams that are really awesome at Agile, with an ops team that is not aligned with that, it's like a sports car that hits a traffic jam, right? Like you guys did a great job delivering really awesome code, a really awesome product. If you're not doing CI, you have to stop. You're gonna stop, wait in line, code's gonna sit on the shelf.
And no one wants that.
And users end up waiting for it, I guess. Don was the
Yeah.
circle back. Now you got great code that a user would value, and it's sitting on the shelf because it's not getting anywhere.
One of the comment I make on that is using the tools and processes that you're going to use to push software to production in the lower environment. So our experience is by the time we get to production, we've done it at every build. So we've got 100 or 200 or 300 times that we've pushed it to different environments. So you're confident when you go to production.
So in your org, just out of curiosity, did the ops team help build the environments that you're building on in dev and QA and pre-production or staging?
Yeah, they were instrumental.
And how many folks in here don't have those environments to build on? You guys all feel like you've got consistent QA and dev environments that match production, and the automation you build is going to push to prod the same way it does to QA?
Now by match,
It's
did
shaking.
you,
Yeah, so on your development laptop, is it the same environment as you run on your production servers, or is it different? I think it's mostly different. People install the same software, but it's not the entire environment, and that's what gives you the real benefit, is having a completely reproducible environment that's identical everywhere, which is one of the reasons things like Docker are getting so popular. You can create a container that's the same everywhere you run it.
So,
let's talk a little bit about the place and the,
oh, yeah, so,
all of the
yeah, a
other
little
sorts of
bit more,
things.
circling back to what we were talking about before. 2 days, we have longer talks, half-hour talks in the morning, followed by a short round each of the 2 days, Thursday and Friday, July 17th and 18th, of Ignite or Lightning Talks. Those are a fun format. You should propose them. If you submit a longer talk and you don't end up giving a longer talk, you might be asked to maybe turn it into a 5-minute talk. And those ones, you get 5 minutes, 20 slides. They auto-advance every 15 seconds. You will probably end up chasing your slides. I don't recommend that, but you probably will. Cheat by making 2 of the slides the same. Give yourself 30 seconds to talk about whatever that is. And then the open space stuff that Donnie described in the afternoon. Jeff, if you want to talk a little bit about the venue.
So after having been one of the co-organizers of the DevFest Minnesota that happened back in February, we had that space. We had a relationship with the space, the Schultze School of Entrepreneurship at the Opus School of Business at the University of St. Thomas, Minneapolis downtown campus. So we've got the really big, so mouthful.
So St. Thomas downtown.
The really big auditorium and many, many classrooms that we're going to get to use, and that neat entrepreneurial lab they have, those little pod chairs that people were like playing around with after DevFest. So it's a really great space, and I think people are going to like it a lot. After having done an event recently that had a couple hundred people, all of the logistics will be squared away. We're going to get the same volunteer coordinator that does this event and has helped with the DevFest Minnesota. We're going to have as many volunteers as we can get. Hey, want to get in free? Come talk to us. We'll get you signed up.
St. Thomas food,
There's going to be food.
they do a good job.
Yeah. Oh yeah, St. Thomas will cater the food. That's not only a requirement, it's also a really good thing because they make good food. So we're really set for that.
Yeah, that's not a bug, that's a feature.
Yeah. Afterwards, we're going to have a party, and that hasn't all been worked out yet. So we've got
Location
a little bit of time.
We have 3 months, just about, until the date. So yeah, that's logistics stuff. Everything convenient, walkable, easy downtown Minneapolis. There is parking, there are ramps, so, and it's fairly close to it's fairly close to 35 and 394 for people who need to come in from places far away with cars. People coming in from places far away with airplanes, it's pretty convenient to the light rail.
They've got good Wi-Fi also,
Yes.
which is a very nice feature. Although you have to agree to the thing that says that you won't do bad stuff because they're a religious school.
Yes, don't download your bento boxes on their Wi-Fi, please. All right, so let's hear from you folks as to what kind of talks you might be interested in seeing, what kind of talks you might be interested in proposing, what you want to talk about, how dev and operations are working together well, or you want them to work together better in your organization. Open it up. Let's hear from you, please.
Tools, of course, for deployment. You mentioned Docker a second ago, and we're just looking at that right now. It's, awesome. I'd love to hear more about that. But, tools specifically for, deployment for whatever other tools you guys commonly use that you found to really, help personal.
Should we explore that for a moment? Like other tool suggestions?
Vagrant?
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Oh, we're calling on you anyway.
Well, I was going in a different direction. I was
That's
going to say, for other talks that, might be interesting, as someone that's in an organization that's about as far from this DevOps mindset as could be imaginable, like how to, approach the people that are in charge of ops and how to sell this to an organization, what are the first steps that we can make to try to, get the ball rolling in that direction. That would be very useful.
I think that's one of the key differences that I've seen within all these different DevOps Days conferences is the split between tools and culture. And that balance determines what the conference feels like.
So on that note, I'd like to hear if anybody has had success in building a DevOps culture across remote offices. My company has an office in Minneapolis and then one in Taiwan, full of great programmers, but I really have a tough time getting them excited about the same things I'm excited about culture-wise. And I wonder if anybody's had success with that.
Just out of curiosity, how are you organizationally structured? Are you all on the same team, or are they separated?
Take some notes about
It's
the
pretty
plans.
chaotic. We're just sort of all trying to make the thing work.
Cool. All right.
I've been hearing a lot about developers and how they get things done.
tools for that. Come to my monitoring talk at 1:40 and talk about that.
I get an offsite person who's recently moved into the more DevOps type stuff, and I certainly would like to see hear what other people are making this shift, making this move from the ops point of view. Because I still have my concerns of if I now give this developer free rein on bringing up his stuff, who handles it when it doesn't work anymore? Who handles it when software all of a sudden its continuous release cycle starts breaking? You know, whose responsibility to fix it at 3 a.m.?
And that's actually a really good point, and Ben's laughing because he sat in that meeting with me where I was the recalcitrant sysadmin saying, no, under no circumstances whatsoever will your completely competent developer have any access to production, even if he's willing to be on call. That was very wrong-headed because what I should have said and what I'd say now, and I'm on a team of all developers and me, and we're all on call, and what I say now is, we're all in this together, buddy. So, you know, if it pages you at 3 a.m. and it was your fault and you fix it, great. If it was who knows whose fault and you can't fix it, you can call me, cool, I'm happy to help. But we all have ownership of this, which means we all have ownership and we all have responsibility. So yes, developers who want to bring DevOps culture to your organization, be prepared to be on call.
One of the problems I've had with more recent tools, I've been using Bamboo, and right in there, when you create a build, it's whose responsibility for this build break?
Get blame. The gentleman in the back was trying to say something.
I'd like to see something about covert DevOps. And by that, I mean, I work at a company that really did do DevOps in the past and still does somewhat. We got bought by a place that says, no, we work in silos. There's ops, there's developers, and we keep this separate. You don't do this, you don't do this.
Shadow IT is a
So how can we quietly develop the processes and demonstrate or just put them in place so that things work? And then maybe, well, we've been doing this and it works well, and then slip it in.
Trick people into some DevOps.
Combine the dev and ops and call it all developers.
And leave one person as an ops just in case they were worried, either wondering what ops. Maybe that'll be big.
I think you ought to have a CIO panel where everybody reports to and have them take fire from everybody this out, because that's where it ultimately comes to whether people work together. And, you know, and invite, have a panel of speakers to come in and have involved from different companies and say, these are the problems that we have. You know, how are you addressing them in your organization?
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it would be pretty interesting to have a panel of people sort of across the spectrum of some, like, Jamie Fingelstad, who's like all DevOps all the time, and he's the CTO at a global company.
Well,
And that's more the other end of the spectrum of like, no, we're
everybody
not doing that.
in the same organization.
Yeah.
I think it would be very interesting to have a session talking about what DevOps pain points there are and how they resource community can remove them.
I think something that would resonate more with someone who is a business owner is we need to build a business case for DevOps. We need to quantify how much the breakdown and siloing costs the company, not just how you feel about it or how frustrating it is, but there are literal costs involved.
Yeah, whenever you go to these DevOps conferences, everybody's talking about doing that, coming up with a way to justify to your management doing these new agey things, but nobody ever talks about how to actually break that down into numbers.
There's some data out there now from some surveys, but it's more centered not around dollars saved per development cycle, but instead about faster delivery of product. And so saying, we're getting this to customers faster. Now, how do you quantify getting to market faster?
Well, that message may not resonate.
First to market is first to money, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. So how do you quantify that, though, in terms of saying, like, well, maybe your business wouldn't be around if you hadn't shipped that 6 months ago? I mean,
Competitive
If you
advantage.
literally took a log of how long your delays are, how much money you're getting paid sitting there waiting for something, and presented that to a business owner, that is going to resonate
Well, if you
a lot faster than, we're getting stuff to our customers faster. That's great,
I think there's
but we're doing okay with the process we have.
yeah.
There's research that, and there's stuff in the DevOps Survey of Practice that Gene Kim and company have put out that I think they've gotten some interesting data about what people, how fast people deploy and how their company is doing.
Yeah, that's
So-
actually, that's a great survey to go back and look at, is the one that, I think, is it Kevin and Jean that?
Yeah, Kevin and Jean
That put that out?
Yeah,
and
sponsored by Puppet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, just go Google Puppet Labs DevOps Survey of Practice 2013 or whatever.
And then if you want to customize that to your company, it's pretty easy to say, okay, so they deliver software 43% cheaper, faster.
Right.
And
Take a look at that over
this is-
time, multiply it by your sales over that time.
Yes. We'll go with you and then you.
Okay. So my experience has been that in DevOps, communication is more critical than ever. But I've never really found a good combination of tools or methods to sort of share information. Like if developers are on call, what are you gonna do? Sharing tools and builds and ongoing information.
Chat ops.
Chat ops.
Yeah, good. And yes, and then we had another question or comment here.
I would like to see something about deployment methodologies, or Git flow rather than using artifacts, other things like that.
So to go back to the chat ops that you mentioned for Mark over there, Nick, I was talking with him yesterday at the pre-party, and his company is doing the company he's working for does some really neat things in that area, which a lot of other companies do as well. So can you
Well, I mean, it's actually not even as much as companies like GitHub do, but we do have chatbots that report build results and deploys and commits into the regular chat room that everybody uses. And I think that's important for having a central place not only to communicate with your employees, but to have the system information flowing in there as well. We also have error reports get dumped in there, so if there's a production error, gets captured, gets pushed in there. And so we see, and there are even more things we could add that we haven't. We don't even have like ticket creation going in there yet, but that's another thing
So
that could
Nick,
be
did
useful.
I mention that proposals are now open?
Oh,
So to tie it all together, so we're about 3 months away, right? I'm doing math in my head. Right, 3 months.
Call
So-
for proposals is open until May 23rd.
Right, so over the next 3 months, what are we looking? So first off, we want people to attend. That's the first thing. We can't have a conference without you. So sign up, tell your coworkers and friends to sign up. The next thing we need is material at the conference. So what we've been doing here, proposing things that we'd like to hear, there's actually going to be, that's part of what the open spaces is. We'll have a big board, like a big matrix of times and rooms. And you write down an idea of what you want to talk about, and you put it on a board at a time in a room, and then you go there, and anyone else who wants to talk about that topic goes there and you talk about it. So that's one thing. So if you have a lot of questions or you have things you want to discuss, the open spaces are for you. And if we get a lot of feedback that we want a lot more open spaces, we can have more open spaces, and maybe we can figure out what
We can move stuff around.
the percentages of planned talks versus open spaces, that's flexible. So if you have a lot of if you want to talk in open spaces, that's great, but we'd also love to have presenters. And we're not just looking for the people who are like, oh, I have 1,000 Twitter followers and I have a book and all that kind of stuff. No, even if you've never presented before, talk even if you don't have, if you have a problem and you think you have a solution to that problem, talk about it. Because then that gets other people thinking, and you can have an open spaces about possible solutions. So summarize, sign up, submit a proposal. Doesn't have to be even if you submit one and then submit 7 or 8 or 9 or however many you want, just get involved. And then come ready with you obviously have a lot of ideas about things you want to talk about, and then that will take up the open spaces and ignite all of the birds of a feather. That's kind of what this whole conference is going to be about.
And then the last thing we need.
Yes. So registration, I submitted the pull request to the DevOpsDays.org website this morning. So Ducey got the Eventbrite stuff set up really late last night. He moved it out of India Standard Time into Central Daylight Time, whatever. Reminded him that this is not the last event that Chef held. But registration is open as of whenever they finish updating the website, so check back later today. And the registration until May 15th is $99. Very affordable, totally sellable to whoever it is you're selling it to. Until June 15th, after that, it's $149. And if you really cannot get it together until late June, early July, you can keep registering up until a day or two before the conference, until July 15th, it's $199. So completely affordable, and it's 2 days where you're going and getting so much in the way of ideas and tools and culture and contacts that are going to be great for your company, that saying I'm going to spend Thursday and Friday going and doing this totally enriching thing locally that is super cheap should not be a horribly hard sell. If you cannot convince your company of that, there's a lot of talks here about recruiters and jobs. You can probably find some place that you can work that is a decent place to work that wants you to improve the corporate culture.
And if your company already loves DevOps, talk to us about sponsorship.
Yeah, we also have our sponsor prospectus went up. There are a lot of the local luminaries that you would imagine that are also involved with Minibar and what have you are going to be sponsors. And yes, exactly. Our local luminary sponsors, some of those will also be sponsors. Hopefully more of them. We'll go bug them after this when they're done sponsoring Minibar. And this is a great opportunity for people, again, say you're new to public speaking. I've read somewhere that, or heard somewhere that people rate public speaking as more terrifying than death, which is, wow, okay. Public speaking doesn't have to last that long. Death is slightly longer. But for example, a 5-minute Ignite talk may make you sweaty and terrified, but it's 5 minutes and it's a great experience. Yep. So you should at least consider it.
One thing about the open spaces, instead of just being open spaces with just any random people, you're in an open space with other people who paid or convinced their boss that it's important for them to learn more about DevOps. So you already have an audience of brains that's going in that same direction. So it'll be a lot easier for you to share and get useful information between each other.
Is open space basically Boys of Federal?
Yeah.
It's all afternoon. It's a little bit more structured than that because, as mentioned earlier, at the beginning, right after lunch, we put up. Everyone just kind of comes up and says, hey, I would really love to talk about Vagrant. Let's have a session where we just talk about Vagrant. And then, hey, that's going to be in this room at this time. And then there's a certain amount of show of hands, okay, we know which ones to put in the bigger rooms or whatever. But they will all get talked about. Even if it's just you and one other person who want to talk about something, you all get a chance to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about.
Yeah, and typically it's all afternoon, so everybody goes to it. It's not like normal Birds of a Feather where a few people show up and everybody else goes to the bar or whatever. This is, it's a daytime activity, so you're not distracted by the party, and you go there and talk about stuff you care about. And a lot of times it is sort of led by whoever proposes the session, so it is a little bit more structured than a Birds of a Feather. It's more like an unconference where you show up in the morning, somebody leads it, but there's no slides or anything like that. Yeah. It's having a real conversation about what you actually care about.
But you should actually show up for the thing you proposed the first day of DevOpsDays New York. I put something up on the board, and then someone else went up to the board and said, oh, I wanted to say that. And so I thought, oh, cool, I can go to the ops school talk then. And apparently I should have actually showed up.
That's a funny story. Did you know that's how DevOps started in the first place?
What?
Yeah, so Andy Schaefer proposed a session at the Agile conference in, I think, 2007. And nobody showed up for it. He didn't even show up for it. And the only person who wanted to go was actually Patrick Dubois. And so he went and tracked him down and turned it into this whole DevOps thing.
If we can get Andy Schaefer to show up for this, he was complaining that it was brutally close to OSCON, which I agree, but the summer is really full, and we're putting this together kind of late, so it is what it is. But at least we don't overlap with it. But if we can get him to come to this, he might run a werewolf, so which is super fun. Let's see, I think a few people joined us late. I see you in the back, Forrest. And anyone who hasn't had a chance to tell us what they're interested in the conference doing or having or being, of course you can send us email later, but that's a lot less personal. So speak up now. What do you actually want at your DevOps Days Minneapolis that you are creating? I haven't heard from everyone in the room. Those of you who aren't solid introverts, I want to hear. What do you want?
I went to a conference once and I really liked that they gave all of the presenters a slot there was one slot at the beginning for any presenter who was interested to talk about the talk that they were going to give. It was a really good way to get an overview of whether you thought that person was going to talk about something that that they said in their notes that are, the schedule is always kind of off about what people are actually talking about.
Yeah, sure. We should mention this is single track. So it's really not do I go to this one or that one or the one that's in some room that I can't even find. I'm going to see if I can find my talk after lunch, by the way. That room is very
with the open spaces?
But with the, sorry?
With the open spaces, though, did
Yeah.
they get up and stand there with a mic and tell their session? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. So people will definitely get a chance to do that for open spaces. And then for the single track part, I mean, it's you don't have to try to pick which one to go to because there's just a few talks and a few ignites, and then lunch. Yay. And then open spaces, people stand up exactly as you're describing. All right, let's hear from yes.
It'd be interesting to hear some case studies, maybe even from like the Best Buy or Target that I know have gone through some of that transition, and see what they've really gone through, and possible bring ops and developers and QA all so they can be represented in that presentation.
Would you want to see that as like a presentation, or would you want more of a panel of an entire team that went through that together?
A panel format would be interesting because then a lot of people ask questions from each of their primary interest groups.
Okay.
Hey, how many people don't have something as cool as the chatbot thing that they're doing at the company where he's working?
Everyone has
Everybody.
chat ops. Does anyone have
raise
chat
your
ops?
hands.
Some people.
No, but do you really need it with a team of 6 in the same room?
It
Well,
depends.
there's 6 plus.
I'd argue you're spoiled.
No, I think it really depends on what you're sharing with it. If you're sharing things like data and graphs where it's easier to talk about it in a written format, then it might still be good. And it's good preparation for when you do become a distributed team in the future. Because if you're at a startup, hopefully your company's going to grow at some point. Otherwise, it's maybe not the best bet to be there.
Yeah.
I know when I'm solving a problem at 3 in the morning, which hopefully doesn't happen very often, but if I'm solving a problem at 3 in the morning, I'll just talk to myself in our channel. And then when people come in the morning, hey, they don't have to sit and sift through emails and alerts and panic and wonder what happened. They can just read where I was talking to myself at 3 in the morning.
It's a cheap way to have kind of ad hoc documentation of what you're thinking.
It also, if you end up needing to write an incident report, it makes it really nice because there's timestamps on everything that happened.
Just a quick question to the audience.
Yes.
What do you guys use for chat programs?
Campfire.
XMPP?
Skype?
Yeah.
HipChat. HipChat's been awesome for us.
HipChat's got a lot.
I hear Slack is the new hotness.
Yeah, that's the one I heard is.
We were on IRC, we switched to HipChat to get the non-technical people into it, and I'm hearing the Slack is even better, so I don't know. Check it out.
Been doing quite a bit of Yammer.
I think that the diversity of chat clients alone that we just heard here tells us that there isn't one right answer. There isn't like a DevOps tool that you buy, and then you buy your DevOps in a box, and then your company is DevOps, and everything is awesome, and also DevOps. That's nonsense. Anybody who tries to sell you that, I mean, you know, anyone who tries to tell you that, yeah, they're selling you something. Yes, Dan.
I would recommend getting something that you can that has an API that you can get the chat log out of, because that's really useful for existing reports.
Exactly. But I mean, the more important thing though is just get everyone using something. And once you have people attached to the idea of chat, then you can try different tools, but just get everybody to at least try it.
Right. I think the important thing, especially in relation to IRC, is as you're trying to get DevOps going in your company, you're going to have to involve a lot of people who don't like to fiddle around with software all the time. And so that doesn't mean IRC is the wrong tool, but it does mean you're going to have to come up with a nice web-based interface for it, which they do exist. But they're not going to want to sit there and like download XChat or URC or something.
But they don't want to run URC on screen? What?
I do. I don't know why not.
I do. Yeah. Okay, let's see. We have just a couple of minutes left. I want to make sure that we've heard from everyone who wants to tell us or tell the whole group something that they want to see at the conference, not even necessarily the panels, but you're at a tech conference right now. Presumably you've been to other tech conferences with something that you loved or something you really didn't. So, hey, here's 6 of your 8 organizers standing right here interested in hearing, what do you want? What do you not want?
Maybe not even content, like who wants just a wall of bacon? You just go in and take a piece of bacon off. Not as, if you went to Chef Summit, we had that, not as nice as you'd think.
Is ChefConf next week going to have bacon?
Yes.
See, there you go.
We will have bacon.
Are you going to have Morningstar Farms breakfast strips for those of us who don't eat bacon?
I'm sure there will be.
One interesting thing that I thought might be nice to have at a conference is to have name tags that don't have your company or position on them, they just have your name. Because I find I spend a lot of time staring at people's name tags, and people spend a lot of time staring at mine to see if I'm talking to,
Sure.
et cetera.
Well, I think we're definitely going to color code Dev and Ops.
So we can have silos.
That's a great point, Dan.
You know, ironically, it could be a good thing because you can say like, oh, I want to talk to a developer about what it's like.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, we'll probably do like names and Twitter handles, and
Yeah.
we'll have to debate about the company thing.
No
Yeah,
Twitter handles on here, which
If we
is
wanted to do
tragic.
like dev versus ops, we could just print a double-sided name tag in a folder, and then you guys can just flip it whichever way you want to be for that session.
Doing
So-
Opsy this session.
Yeah, yeah. So probably something like that. Why not?
Yeah, speaking of undercover, we all have to give Jeff a hard time because he refuses to be on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter
Uh-huh.
with a little lock there,
Uh-huh.
but it's not safe, right? It's a cell phone.
Yes,
What
partly
SSL?
is why you're not on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or why we couldn't find a photo of you.
Well, we tried for 5 minutes tops during the
I
session.
got really creative.
They just didn't
Google.
look the right place.
Okay.
But yes, please
that?
chat with any of us that you would like to chat with on Twitter because we would love to. Sometimes people have a question or a request that they don't want to bring up in a general forum, but they really would like to talk to someone about it. Please talk to us. We want to make this. We are the instruments by which you are bringing forth this conference that is for this community.
You have 7 fake Twitter accounts.
Yes?
I think William's taking a picture. He's going to set up a Twitter account for you.
I'll join the Twitterverse.
It is just,
New competition. Whoever makes the best Jeff Twitter handle gets a prize at DevOpsDays Minneapolis.
Yeah.
We won't be able to.
And let's see, again, the sponsor thing, it will be out on the website later today, hopefully. So those of you who are at organizations that like to get their name out there and support this sort of thing, talk to your employers. They can drop us a mail, they can look at our prospectus, they can drop us a mail. I would love to hear, I'm gonna pick on Tom again. I would love to hear just a closing thought. We're out of time, but I'd love to hear a closing thought from everyone.
Closing thought. If you'd like to do a proposal but you don't know how, contact us. We've all talked. We can give you resources. We can give you guidance. We can, help you. We can help you kind of get ready to submit your proposal. So don't let the fear of your proposal not being accepted prevent you from submitting a proposal.
Exactly. Like I submitted and presented at a bunch of places. I submitted at Velocity Santa Clara this year and did not get in. And hey, you know what? I wasn't proposing the right thing anyway. Yes.
No, there's nothing. Never mind.
Ask them, look at the other ones. Point at the days. So July 17th and 18th, downtown Minneapolis. Be there or be square, or be there or be missing DevOps goodness.
From my perspective, I think one of the things that I would really stress is tell your friends and probably more importantly, tell your enemies. Like this is all about collaboration and talking about problems we all have. And I think that just thinking about some of the topics you guys brought up today, how fun would it be to sit in a room with 10 people, 5 of which have solved this problem, 3 of which haven't even thought about it, and 2 that are in the middle of trying to figure it out. Like that's a really productive conversation where you're not only talking about culture and how they tackled that at their organization, but the tools and the different solutions they used to get there. So you get a lot of value out of it, not just for yourself, but for your coworkers or other people that have that. The more people that come, the better the conversations are going to be.
Yeah. I think it's, from my point of view, a really rare opportunity to spend 2 full days with other people and other companies who really care about this. That's not something that comes along very often. And so, I always find the hallway track the best part of any conference where you can meet up with all the other people who have the same problems or different problems. And, have a beer or other beverage of your choice.
Donnie, you kind of stole the words out of my mouth. I was going to say something very similar to that. Every organization is more and more an IT organization, and we can all do IT better, and we're all part of building that future of better organizations.
Exactly. So it's left to me to say thank you all for coming today. Please talk to us on Twitter. And I think that this has been actually a really valuable discussion. Thank you to Samantha, who has been writing down all of the awesome things that you guys have all said so that we can actually make sure to work towards what you've asked for. And again, we need your proposals. Go to DevOpsDays.org, click on Minneapolis, and tell us what you want to talk about. Thank you all so much for coming today.